Hi, everybody, and welcome to a new episode of Beyond the Pages. And today we're talking to Emily. Hi, Emily. So
Hi.
nice for you to join us. Can you tell us a bit about you, first of all?
Yeah. I'm Emily. I live in Western Australia. Um, I'm just a self-published author. I've always kind of loved stories. I definitely grew up more loving like movies and TV shows.
Mhm.
Um, but as I got older and kind of finally learnt to read, I was a little bit slow on learning how to read. So once I kind of got the hang of that, then I really became a big reader. Um, and yeah, that's kind of where the love of stories started.
Okay, so when did you really decided, like, okay, this is my dream. I want to be an author.
It was really late for me because I never really had that desire. Like I said, I struggled to learn how to read, so I didn't really fully learn how to read until I was about 11. I was really, really slow on that. And then I kind of like played with writing stories, but not in a big way. Like I didn't have the attention span to really sit down and fully do anything past like two or three chapters. Um, so it wasn't until I was on maternity leave with my son that I kind of just was bored and I'd read a couple of books and I didn't quite like how they ended. And then I was like, oh, I don't want to do anything because I didn't want to make any noise while he was sleeping, but I needed something to do while he was sleeping.
Hmm.
So I just started writing and then it got to, I think, about the sixth chapter, which I was like, wow, I've stuck with this. And my partner had asked if he could read it. And I was like, "Oh, I guess, like, if you want to, it's not going to be anything great." And then he was like, no, actually, I'm really enjoying this. And I was like, oh, okay. And he was like, can you keep writing this, please? And I was like, oh, okay, I guess I'll do that. So, and then it just kept going. And then I got involved with the author sphere on YouTube. So I
Okay.
got involved with AuthorTube and I was doing live streams and really engaged in that community for a while. And I think it was then that I was like, oh, maybe I should actually kind of do something with this. And because I have a past experience with graphic design, I was like, I can do a lot of this stuff myself. So I guess self-publishing would be all right. And because I self-published right after COVID. So
Okay.
I was kind of in the mindset of keeping everything local, trying to support Australian businesses and stuff like that. And in the publishing world, because I write fantasy, there wasn't a whole lot for me in the traditional
Mm,
side of things.
yeah.
So that self-publishing side really, really became my only option at that point. So yeah, it was really like Ashwood, which is my first book, was like that was my okay, I'm gonna be an author, I'm gonna do this. And I think I just like fell in love with it while writing that project. So it's very, very new to me, this desire.
Which is good. Like, do you notice that, especially when you started writing, and because you had like issues with reading when you were younger, um, I have it with math, like I
Mhm.
can't count at all.
Yeah.
Still, still struggling with that. Um, did you find like you had difficulties writing as well, or did that actually went pretty natural for
It
you?
actually came pretty naturally, which was very surprising. Because I'd had a couple of issues in high school. I could
Mhm.
not write essays to save my life. Like it was so bad. I actually had a teacher who had kind of pulled me aside one day, pulled me aside, but still in front of the whole class where they could all hear it,
Of course.
and tell me that I couldn't write and I was probably not going to learn how to do it properly, so I should just write all my essays in dot points and just do that. So I was like, okay, well, clearly I can't write anything ever. So I think that was why I again had that really long period of just I can't write, I can't be a writer. It's not for me. Um so I was very surprised when I was writing and it was coming quite easily. I think like as an adult now and reflecting on it, I think I might be dyslexic because I do still have like a lot of like spelling errors and using the wrong word when I, kind of know what I mean, but I write
Mm-hmm.
the wrong word down and stuff like that. So yeah, again, it's very surprising that my writing does kind of come quite easy. Because even with reading now, like I do still struggle. It takes me a long time, but I get there. Um, but yeah, oddly enough, the writing seems to be quite smooth usually.
And don't we love to show the teachers wrong?
Exactly. Yes. I think that's a very
Mhm.
key part of my drive now is just kind of a big stuff you to that teacher.
As you should.
Mm,
So, like teachers supposed to build you up and motivate you, and I don't like teachers like that at
yeah,
all.
no, not a big
Um,
fan myself.
so you started your first book is Ashwood. How many books have you written so far?
So written and completed, it's just the two. So I'm like very baby writer, which is I don't recommend for other people. I definitely don't follow my example. Do as I say, not as I do. I would recommend writing more books before going into publishing, especially with like rapid release is so good for indie authors. It really helps to get you kind of going. My stuff has been so slow, very slow to pick up. Ashwood came out 3 years ago, and there's still people who think that I'm a new author. I'm like, no, I've been at this for going on 3 years now. But yeah, I don't recommend people starting with their first written book. I think you definitely need that time to develop your skills. And I've definitely noticed that even with Greed, my second book, my writing skills were just so much better. I'm now working on the second book for Ashwood, and the writing is just, again, it's so much better. Like I should have just waited, but I'm one of those people where if I wait and I let it sit there, it will sit there and I'll move on to something else. So if I was going to do it, I had to commit then and there. I'm lucky that because I am self-published, in the future, I can go back and completely rewrite and release that. Like, there's no publisher that's holding me to any
Mm.
kind of contract with releases and stuff. So I probably will do that in the future. But at the moment, I'm happy with what Ashwood is. Um, I think for a first ever completed book, I would say I'm quite proud of it.
Mm.
And I think it's nice to see how my writing will develop from that. So for the moment, it's just the two completed ones. And then I've got numerous work in progress manuscripts happening at the moment.
And I think, like, especially when you write your first book and you're finished,
Mm,
it's just that moment of like, I did it, and
yeah.
you just want to share it, which is totally understandable. Like, I didn't have the patience at all.
Yeah.
Um, so it's like, yay, it's finished, and let's go. So can you tell us a bit more about Ashwood?
hmm So Ashwood is it's hard because it fits into quite a few different genres. But I say it's a romantic dark fantasy. So it is definitely on the darker end of fantasy. There's necromancers and other kind of darker themes in there. But there is also quite a heavy romance plotline, subplot. So it's not quite romantasy. I wouldn't say it totally fits in with just a romantasy
Mm-hmm.
kind of genre. It's a little bit more heavier on the fantasy. But it's about I, so hard trying to like condense it because it's like 176,000 words that I'm like, I gotta squish it. Um, so I say that it's like Tangled, the Disney movie,
Mm-hmm.
meets Witcher. So it is kind of like in a way that Rapunzel retelling where you've had this princess who's been kept locked away by her mother, um, and she is kind of forced out to hunt down this necromancer that's trying to destroy her future queendom. And along the way, she is joined by the prince of a kind of enemy kingdom, and they're traveling together to try and hunt down this necromancer before he basically destroys everything. There is also then Lorcan, who is the captain of the guard to the main character's queendom. And it follows his journey of being kind of left behind in the queendom to defend it against this horde of zombies, basically. So you've got Evelina and Thanatos on their journey across the continent, and then you've got Lorcan back in Isidia is the name of the queendom, basically just holding down the fort and trying to keep their people safe.
Sounds really good.
Yeah, it's a
So,
lot.
and like more than 11, what did you say? How many words did it have?
176,000. So it's a big boy.
It's,
Yeah.
it definitely is.
Yeah.
Um, so your second book,
Mhm.
is that like a standalone, separate from Ashwood, or is it like a duet kind of part of the series?
It's kind of a so Greed is a spin-off prequel short novel.
Okay.
So Evelina is the main character in Ashwood, and she has an auntie called Bologna who kind of plays a little bit of a part in Ashwood. Greed is Bologna's story before Ashwood happens. So in Greed, like Evelina is a baby, and it follows Bologna going on this kind of treasure hunt almost. It's very like Treasure Island meets in Indiana Jones. Um, so yeah, she's going on this treasure hunt for some like old goblin treasure. And it's also kind of a journey of her coming into sobriety. She's a bit of a loose cannon, so it's her journey to like figuring out and realizing that she needs to get her life under control and do all of that stuff. And of course, things don't go the way that they should go. All of my books lean a little bit darker, so there's never really a happy ending. It's kind of always a bittersweet ending. But yeah, Greed is kind of just that short little fun adventure. I love Greed. It's probably one of my proudest books, really.
Okay. So, besides just, okay, I need some time to do something when my son is asleep. Like, what was your inspiration behind, well, Ashwood is your first book. So what was the inspiration behind it?
At the time, I'd gotten back into reading since kind of stopping while I was like working full time and just distracted. So I had gotten back into reading because my son was an amazing sleeper. He would sleep 3 hours in the morning and 3 hours in the afternoon. So I had a lot of time where I was just by myself at home and I was super bored. So I got back into reading. I picked up on a couple of my like series that I'd started. And just had never gotten around to finishing. And I finished those series and I was like, oh, that's it. So it really was kind of born from disappointment and spite because I'd put so much time into reading these books and I really wanted to love them and I really wanted to be excited for the end. And then it was just that disappointment of, oh, that's how you're going to end it. And I guess it kind of came from a bit of like I'm sure I could do that better. So, not to sound pretentious, but it was a little bit like that. It was like, surely I could do a better job than that because I just felt like it was done so poorly. So that's kind of what inspired Ashwood. And then also just my love of fantasy. I'm a huge Lord of the Rings fan. I love fairy tales. I love like when we talk about video games, I got massively into Zelda at the same time,
Okay,
while my
yes.
son was sleeping because he
Mhm.
he was born the same year that Breath of the Wild came out. So I was like, I'd never played a Zelda game before in my life. And my partner was just like, oh, you should give it a go. See if you like it. And I was like, oh, yeah, maybe. And it's my favorite game ever. And I love it. I've put over 800 hours into that game. It's ridiculous. And then I also started playing Skyrim as well. So like just fully immersed into these big fantasy worlds. And I was just like, I need more, but I couldn't find quite what I wanted anywhere. Like, I love fantasy, I love romance, but the heavier fantasy stuff just never has enough romance for what I'm looking for. So
Okay.
I was like, I'm gonna have to do it myself. And that's pretty much how things go with my life. It was just, I want this, I can't find it, I'll just do it myself then. So there's definitely a bit of that.
So when you are really into your writing process, like what would a typical day look like for you?
If I'm such a mood writer. I'm a mood reader and a mood writer, which is very hard to lock down a routine when you're like that. But if I'm really, sometimes I have really good weeks where I am just like, oh my God, I got to get this story down. So it'll usually be get my son ready for school, drop him off at school, come home. I need to do my housework before I sit down and start writing. Otherwise, it's not going to happen. And then once that's done, I make my coffee, I come into the study, and I just try and write. I don't really have like a set structured routine for my writing. I've just got to do it when I feel it. Otherwise, it's not going to work. I can't force myself. Much in the way that I'm a pantser, if I try and tell myself I need to do something, I rebel against myself. So even if I have like a plot for a book and I've outlined it and it's strict, I'm like, I'm not doing that anymore. I don't pass
I'm not
Emmy
feeling it.
yeah. Yeah. So I kind of just have to go with the flow, really. I wish I could be one of those really like kind of strict routine writers, but it's not me. I live in chaos.
Fair enough. Um, so your characters and character development, how did you approach it? Like, did it really come easy, or like character development, and especially like the growth of your characters throughout the story? A lot of writers are mostly struggling with that aspect.
Mhm.
How was that for you?
I think for me, again, because I'm a pantser, it takes me a little bit longer. And that's usually where I get stuck in my writing,
Hmm.
is where I like to develop things as it goes. So I write in oh my goodness, my brain just dropped the word completely. Um, I write in order. So chronologically, that's the word. So I write chronologically. So I usually, when I'm introducing a character, I'm meeting that character for the first time as well. And I think that for me really helps because I'm learning with the POV character what that character is like and who they are. And I find that that works quite well for me. It's not going to work for everyone. Some people, again, need that kind of more structure,
Hmm.
but I like piecing things together like that. It's almost like doing a puzzle. I really like that in writing, and I like the not knowing and the discovery process of that. Um, I kind of will have a bit of an idea of what I want.
Yeah.
Just as it's leading up to the introduction for the character, I'll be like, okay, I need them to be like this strong character, or I need them to be a little bit more shy, or I need them to be kind of sneaky. And then I'll go in from that, and then I'm like, okay, they're sneaky because this happened, or they grew up in this situation, or and kind of build from there. And then
Hmm.
as it goes, the character figures out. I usually will get the hang of the character after that first meeting, and then I'm like, all right, this is who they are. But it's not always the case. Sometimes it takes a little bit longer. Um, Especially in Greed, I have a character who is kind of pretending to be something they're not. So for that, it was a bit more of a extended discovery. But because I write in first person, I find that that's really good because, again, I'm learning with the point of view character who this person is and what they're like. So I can kind of leave it a little bit longer without knowing, because it's going to be a shock to the character and to me. So I don't know if that fully answers the question, but
It
that's my
definitely
process.
does. And what I like about that is the moment that you actually meet your character at just the beginning. You don't have the annoyance of a character that is like, oh no, I'm not going to do what you want. I'm going to change my mind.
Mm,
Um, and I really talk to a lot of authors who actually like that's their bomb. It's like I planned everything out. This is how my character is. This is the backstory. And they just changed it in the middle of the
yeah.
whole story. It's being different. So I like actually the idea of getting into there with fresh eyes, and you actually start knowing your character as well, which brings you probably closer to a reader
Mm,
because they have probably the same feeling. Um, so when you get like stuck, writer's block,
mm.
creative slumps, and because you're a mood writer, is it just like, okay, I just throw it aside and I'm going to do something completely different? Or are there any other strategies that you use to overcome those issues?
I do a couple of different things. It depends on what kind of block I'm having. If I'm just like stuck with the story and I'm just like at a point where I just can't quite figure it out, I might try and take a break, take a breather, and work on something different. Sometimes when I'm thinking about another story, the solution for my problem will pop into my head then. So hence why I have multiple projects kind of on the go, because I'll just kind of jump between when I get stuck on one. Um, if it's a bigger writer's block, like I literally just can't get myself in the seat and my brain is just totally shut off creatively, that's when I'll try and go to other hobbies. So I'll have a week of just straight playing Zelda again, or I'll, bring up my Skyrim game and I'll play Skyrim for a while and try and really immerse myself in a fantasy world that's kind of not my own. Because I find that um, external inspiration is kind of the best thing for me to get my brain back moving.
Mhm.
Sometimes I can do it with books, like I might just take some time reading, but I find that then I think too much about those books, and because I'm quite a critical reader, so I'm thinking too much about those books and not thinking about my own stuff. So I find that something like watching my favorite movie or, having a Lord of the Rings marathon is kind of the best thing that's going to get my creative juices going, because I'm thinking about that kind of broader story that I already know. I'm comfortable with it. I can think about, oh, that's a cool element. What if that kind of turned into this? And then it gets my brain going. And then I'm like, oh, the thing that I was stuck on, I can go back and do it this way. So I find that that is kind of the best thing. Um, Sometimes music will help as well if my brain kind of attaches it to a character.
Mhm.
Like I can't listen to music while I'm writing, but when I'm
Okay.
writing a project, I usually will have kind of like an artist or a playlist that I
Yeah.
stick to while I'm working on that project. So for Ashwood, it was a band called In This Moment, which is like a female-led metal band, and they were just amazing. All of their music was basically what I was listening to at the time that I was writing Ashwood. And now every time I listen to that band, all I can think of is Ashwood. And it's really good when I'm like kind of struggling with the second book. I'm like, all right, I'm just going to listen to In This Moment, and I'm just going to do it that way. Um, at the moment, I'm also working on a contemporary romance about an opera singer and a metal singer. Um, Kind of a romance
Hey.
between them.
Yeah.
So I've been listening to a lot of death metal at the moment. Um, and that's been really great for that as well. Like it just really kind of seems to get my brain going and thinking about like where the story could go and what the music is going to be like in the book and how I can describe it and stuff like that. So really seeking that kind of external inspiration, I find, is what gets my brain going again.
So besides like writer's block, like
Mhm.
do you have like other challenges that can interfere like with your writing or not really?
Yeah, I think so. Like there's definitely times when you've got like just stuck on a character, and what I want them to do or how I want them to go about it, but trying to make it work with their personality or trying to figure out who they are, and sometimes I have to step away and kind of try to think about that. And again, that's usually where I'm like, all right, I'm going to binge a bunch of like reality TV show clips, and I'm going to watch a bunch of like dramas and try and figure out like what I want to do with this character. And like, I mean, real life distractions, there's always stress, there's always worry, there's always all of that kind of stuff that can cause kind of blocks and issues with writing as well.
Hmm.
I'm very lucky at the moment that I don't have a day job, so writing for me at the moment is my full-time job. I am dealing with an injury, so that does also kind of come into it.
Hmm.
I've got carpal tunnel in my right hand and then also issues in my left, so those kind of can interrupt.
Hmm.
And sometimes when that's playing up, like obviously I can't type if my carpal
No.
tunnel's playing up, it causes problems. But they're kind of the only issues I have. I unfortunately can't use dictation to write. I know a lot of people do that, which would be amazing. My brain just can't work with speaking out loud. It's so I like really need to type or I need to hand write. I
Hmm.
can't like dictation, I just can't get to work for me. Um, but I think it's a good tool that I probably should try to develop, but I don't think I'd be able to.
It is a hard one, I think. It's
Mm,
sometimes I have the same like making videos, for example, and I can like do this, having this conversation with you because you have that feedback, but I'm still trying to get over me talking to myself. Like
hmm.
it's it's just not working.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, that would probably be the same. And it's I think sometimes like especially when you write because it's in your head and you see that movie in your head, it's so hard to talk about it at the same time. It's like you're just running behind the point sometimes.
Yeah.
Um, so I agree with you. Like, I really admire people who can use it,
Mm.
but I'm struggling with the same thing as well.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's like it's a different part of your brain when you're writing. Like for me it is anyway, and I just can't get it to switch over. I know the romance author Katie Robert,
Hmm.
she had to do dictation for a while. I'm sure she still does, because she had carpal tunnel in both her hands and she had to have surgery.
Yeah.
So she was for a really long time just like straight dictating, and that was how she was writing all of her books, which like, oh my God, I can't imagine. Like, and she did say it was a learning curve,
Yeah.
but she'd been doing it here and there for a while, and then she had to kind of do it full time once she had the surgery done. But like, there's just no hope. If I need surgery for mine, like, I'm sorry, there's gonna be a wait time extension on these books because I can't do dictation.
Um, so we talked a bit about like character development, but you're writing fantasy, and
Mhm,
fantasy is famous or infamous, depends on how you look at it, at world building.
mhm.
Um, how do you like get there, get into that magical world and just seeing it? And how hard is it to um, really put that whole world in place?
World building is such a difficult thing. And I find now that I've done it myself and I'm read a lot of books more critically because I have built a world, um, a lot of people I think struggle with it more than they realize that they are. it's not an easy thing to do. It is very hard to kind of come up with a world completely from scratch and try and figure it out. I think for me, again, I didn't plan any of this stuff. I just started writing one day. And I think that really helped me figure out what was going to happen with the world, was just that discovery process of writing it as I was going. I really love history and mythology, so I kind of pulled a little bit from those things that I love and put them in this world. Obviously, also being from Australia, we're a very multicultural country, so um, my continent, because it is just a continent, Corinthia is kind of based on Australia. You know, I was like, just keep it to what we know. I live in Australia. We're like a island continent separated from everything. That's what I'm going to do. And then I just kind of broke it into other things. But in the overall world building, there are humans. The main characters in my books are elves. So I have, my book is like high fantasy. So there's elves, orcs, goblins,
Okay,
magical
yes.
creatures, all of that kind of stuff. And there's also humans. So the continent itself has had a lot of, I guess, like immigration. So there is a lot of other humans that have come from elsewhere and set up their own little kingdoms within this continent.
Mm-hmm.
So then you've got kind of these set, okay, this one, like I have a kingdom called Kushiam, which is based off Egypt and North Africa. So they're in like a desert area. Their architecture is very Egyptian. What the royal family wears is very Egyptian inspired. The king itself is based off a African king called Mansa Musa. He was one of, I think, even to today's standards, he's like the richest man to ever exist. He's a very rich Muslim king, and he would just like travel from, I think he was Malian, so he would travel from Mali over across to the Middle East. And as he was going, he would just give off, like, he would just give people treasure as he was going and give them money because he had so much of it. He was like, what am I going to do with all this here? You can have it. So that's what, like, kind of Kushiam is based on. And then you've got Monoma, which is kind of a Greco-Roman area. And I even mention it in Ashwood that they kind of stole their decor from the Egypt, like from Kushiam, because that's kind of what happened with Rome and Greece. They kind of stole their architecture and everything
Yeah.
from the Egyptians. So like there's bits of like real life in there as well, which I think that's the best way to world build, is to pull a little bit from reality and just twist it to fit what you're doing. Also be respectful about it. There are definitely sometimes when people twist things and you're like, I don't know about that. Don't know if that was a great choice. But yeah, so I think it involves a lot of research, a lot of pull from what you know, pull from what you love, be respectful. And I hope that it comes across in my book, if you can tell what I've pulled from, that there was a lot of love there. I've pulled from things that fascinate me and interest me and all of that stuff. So for the fantasy, the more like fantasy worlds, the elves and stuff, that was purely from media that I've read, watched, played. So a lot of kind of Skyrim inspiration, a lot of Lord of the Rings, a lot of, you know, all that kind of stuff, books that I read as a kid. And it just kind of exploded from there. I don't play D&D myself, but there was a lot of inspiration from D&D. My partner is very big into D&D, and he reads everything that I write as I'm writing it. So he also played a really big part in the development of the world because he was so much more ingrained in a lot of that heavier world stuff from the D&D universe. So he was able to be like, oh, but what does this mean? And what are you going to do with this? And if this is their religion, how is it creating, you know, issues with this? And it would do this for this people. And so that really helped as well to have that direct feedback from him. But yeah, I think world building it's so intense. It's so hard. Especially when you think of like your Tolkien and your Brandon Sanderson, it's like, whoa, they're masters, and you can only learn from the best. So I definitely tried to do more research into like the full extended Lord of the Rings kind of world with all of that. Not to take anything, but just to see how much work he put into it. And that really helped as well, to be like, there is so much lore there, and you kind of need to develop that to have a fully fledged, real feeling universe. And I hope I've done that.
I like it, how you said, like the research you actually put into your book. Because normally, like, I think fantasy, right, writers really like to write in fantasy because there isn't a lot of research
Mm,
they need to do, especially like if you look like an historical fiction and a fantasy book. Well, you are actually like, oh no, it's the research that actually.
yeah, yeah. I've seen a lot of recent fantasy books that I've tried to go into. And it is a little bit disappointing because you can tell the ones that have been properly researched, and you can tell ones that were like, oh, well, it's a fantasy world, it doesn't matter. And it's like, but no, it does matter, because people are going to connect what you're saying here to real world. That's how it works. That's what we're going to connect it to things that we know. So if you say something about this character and they look a certain way or they act a certain way, or you're saying they're from a certain place, we're going to connect that with a real world equivalent. And that's when you get your problems, or that's when you get people who are, well, this doesn't make sense because why would blah 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 blah. So I think it really is important for fantasy writers, especially. You've got to do research. You can't go into it without doing research, especially when you're basing races and civilizations off of real things. You know, if it can be something as simple as Greco-Roman, you still have to research Greco-Roman history, and you still need to know what's there and what happened, and the mythologies and the belief system
Mm,
and all of that stuff. And if you're creating your new religion, you need to know what that is happening with that, how it affects the world, what everyone believes and how heavily they believe it, and you know, all of that stuff. And that was one of the biggest things that my partner um kind of really helped with, was the religion of this world, because there are gods that are like real and tangible and they're there.
yeah.
And he was like, okay, so what does that mean? How do they affect the world? How are they playing a part? Like, you know, you've got people that believe them, people that don't believe them. How do they not believe them when they're really there? What's your reasoning behind that? And I was like, oh, the thinking. But
You let me think. Jeez,
yeah,
get me right, man.
because that's the one part that I was like, I don't care about that. I mean, we're not going to talk that much about the religion. And he was like, but you need to, because you're setting up a world, and there's always going to be religion in the world. You can't have a world without it. It's just not how things work, because yeah, people are going to come up with reasons for why things exist, and that always ends up, you know, leading to a religion being created. So yeah, it was, yeah, you need to ask questions, you need to answer the questions, and you need to do your research.
Yeah, I think it's an important message as well. What you just said, like even though it is fantasy, people will look at it like, hey, how do I translate it, everything to this world?
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah,
Yeah.
it's a good, really good point, to be honest. Um, so if you could
Mm-hmm.
jump in one of your character's skin, who would you choose and why?
I would definitely choose Bologna, who is the lead character in Of Greed and Glory, because she's just, Bologna to me is she's the character that I created, that is what I wish I could have been. So she is just a complete loose cannon. She doesn't care what people think. She's doing her own thing, living her own life, regardless of how it affects other people, which is kind of a problem. But she's so kind of free, does what she wants, and she's also just, you know, 7 foot tall, built like you wouldn't believe, and just hot. So, you know, that would be amazing as well. I think Yeah, she's just such a fun character. She also she's a sea elf. And she is one of the only sea elves in, I can't remember how many years, it might have been 10,000 years, I said, that has gills. So she can breathe underwater. So she can swim as long as she wants and she can breathe underwater. And as much as I hate the beach, I do love swimming. So I feel like it would just be amazing just be able to like live underwater. Be so cool.
Sorry. Um, so that's a character you would want to be. Is there
Mhm.
also a character that you um i- who is more inspired to you as you are now?
I think there's a little bit of me in every single character, and I think that's true for quite a lot of writers. Like definitely with Bologna, her bluntness is that's me all over. I'm blunt with Evelina, it's her stubbornness. I'm stubborn. Um, there's bits of me in every character, and I think any friends or family that read my book will be like, oh yeah, okay, I can see that. Um, I think the character that's most similar to me and that I relate to myself would be
Mhm.
Thanatos, which I think it surprises a lot of people when I say that, but I'm like, no, that's definitely he's me to like a big level. And he's a really interesting character. I love Thanatos. He's apart from Bologna, he's my favorite character. Because he's kind of the misunderstood good guy. He's from a kingdom of dark elves where they have death magic, so they can just kill you on the spot. And because of that, everyone is really, really prejudiced against them. They're like, oh, well, they're gonna kill us. They crazy, they do whatever they want. And he's just so sweet, and he's just like, that's not me. But then at the same time, he's like, well, if that's what you want to believe, like, whatever, I'll play it up. I don't care. But he's just such a sweet, sweet boy. And he's just very deeply depressed and very sad, just wants to be loved and accepted. And like, I think I think a lot of people can relate to that. And a lot of people, I think Thanatos, apart from Bologna, she's like the fan favorite. Thanatos is a very close second, I think, for a lot of people. Because he's great. But he's definitely, I think, I said I can't remember where I said it, but I think I said it to a friend. He has my depression and my taste in women. So that's I think where I relate to him. He likes butch women. I like butch women. We're both very sad.
What would you say is like the biggest um struggle or challenge that you faced after publishing your books?
Oh, marketing. 100%.
Isn't it the
Marketing.
worst?
Oh, it's horrible. It's such a nightmare. I think for me as well,
Mm-hmm.
because I'm so between genres, it's really hard for me to find my audience. Because there is a romance, I think a lot of fantasy readers kind of steer away from it, a lot of the hardcore fantasy readers.
Yeah.
I'm really struggling to get male readers, and I'm like, I just want some guys to read this book because I think you'll really like the male characters. But,
Guys.
the struggle is real. I know. Dudes, please. Um, so I get quite a few female readers and femme readers, and I think that's great. Like they're going to be my primary audience anyway, being
Yeah.
femme presenting female author. But it would just be nice to have the boys show up a little bit more. But I think because I do have the romance in there as well,
Mhm.
but with the rise of romantasy and spicy romantasy, I don't do so well because I don't have a lot of spice in my books. So I struggle with the marketing side of that because I'm like, there's romance, but it's a subplot. But it's heavier than regular fantasy, but it's not as much as that one, but it's there. But it's quite hard, like trying new things, different things every day, and really kind of trying to push that. It's a romantasy, but it's more fantasy focused. But that's been the main struggle. And I think that's a struggle for everyone, whether you're traditional published or self-published.
Yeah.
Marketing is just, eek.
The pain.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Um, and you design your own covers.
Yes. Yeah.
Please tell us more.
Yeah. So that I'm very lucky that in my last year in high school, I left high school in after year 11, I dropped out. But I in year 11 took a graphic design class
Mm,
and I loved it. I am from a family of artists. My great grandmother was a very, very talented painter. And my mum's very good at painting. One of my brothers, amazing at art. My sisters as well. We all love art. And I liked art, but I took a really big step away from it for ages. Didn't touch the stuff for so long. And then I did this graphic design class in year 11 and I was like, wow, I like this is cool. Like doing art on a computer and playing with the shapes and the colors and using Photoshop for the first time. And I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. Um, so when it kind of clicked for me that I was not going to survive another year of high school, I was like, I'm done.
mm,
Googled a bunch of TAFE courses, found a graphic design one, and I was like, oh, sweet, I'll go and do that. So I applied for that course, told the school I was leaving, then told my parents I was leaving, and then went through it that way. And then I did that 1 year course. I didn't do like one silly little extra unit, so technically I don't have my certificate, but I did do the course, and I was told by my instructors that I did very well, and I would have been top of the class had I actually gotten my certificate. Um, and then I did bits and pieces with graphic design after that. My dad has owned his own business for basically my whole life. So
mm,
once I kind of had that degree, I started doing a lot of his business logos and business cards and stuff like that. Um, and then would, design my own birthday invitations and things like that.
mm,
But unfortunately, in especially Western Australia, there's not a lot of jobs for graphic designers.
mm.
It's getting better now, especially with like the massive upsurge in social media and
Yeah.
graphic marketing and stuff like that. Um, been a massive surge in it that way. I did always want to do cover design, but I was never quite sure how to go about it. Because this is in 2012. So I didn't even know self-publishing was a thing. I didn't know what indie authors were. I didn't
Mm.
know this whole other world existed where people were designing their own covers and releasing their own books. I had no clue. So I just kind of went on years and years, not doing anything, doing the occasional thing for my dad, and that was basically it. Um, and then discovered, I like writing and I wrote a book and self-publishing is a thing and AuthorTube and all of that stuff. And then I was like, well, I could probably design my own cover. And I tried for a really long time. I think there's a stream on my YouTube channel where I was streaming with a bunch of like friends and stuff, and people in the comments were helping me as I was, or like talking to me as I was designing the cover, and they were giving me feedback and stuff. So it wasn't the final cover, but the whole thing was a really kind of lovely collaboration with me and like the audience I had at the time and stuff like that. So I really, really loved that input, and it means a lot for my cover that it kind of had that. Um, and then for the final cover, God, I just couldn't get the flower right because I was trying to draw it's like a crystal flower, and I was trying to draw it, and I was trying to make it look like a 3D crystal flower but drawn. And it was not good considering I hadn't drawn anything for over a decade at that point. It was like, this is not happening. Um, so then I was watching, it was just like a Brandon Sanderson signing live stream. He just does them every now and then where he's signing books and he'll answer questions and stuff like that. And I was just watching one, and he had a friend on there who was an artist. He does he does a lot of the artwork for the Magic the Gathering cards, and he was 3D sculpting on his iPad, and he was using a project called Nomad Sculpt. And I was like, oh, that's cool. Maybe I'll look into that. Like potentially make the flower from that. So
Mm.
then I spent a couple of weeks teaching myself how to use this 3D sculpting program. And then
Okay.
that's how I got the flower in the end. So yeah, it was a lot of like relearning skills while I was
Mm.
designing it and teaching myself new skills and going about it that way. Lots of help with online stuff. Like YouTube is an endless source of information. It was amazing the amount of content on there to help with cover design, and I did all my internal formatting as well myself. So having the
Okay.
background with graphic design definitely helped, but then all these programs are all so new, all the updates that happened between 2012 and
Mm.
2022 was very very different world.
Yes.
But YouTube helped so much, and I think being able to design my own cover as well, I was able to capture what I wanted it to capture. Was able to get the full effect of the book, because I think knowing the content of the book is how you're going to get a better cover. And a lot of cover designers, they don't have to read the book. They might get a slight description of what the book might be about sometimes, in some
Hmm.
cases. A lot of the time, they just get a brief and they're just told what they're meant to do.
Yeah.
So I think having that extra knowledge of the actual content of the book and what the vibe of the book is and what
Mm.
the emotions and trying to convey and stuff was really helpful in that way. So that was the Ashwood cover, and then the Greed cover. Oh my god, that was so much fun! Like at that point, I pretty much had the skills down. I knew what I was going to do, and I just went and did it. And some of it, like if you look at the gold, the gold Greed at the top, it kind of looks like a coral reef. It has that kind of speckledy coral reef kind of 3D effect on it. I don't know how I did that. It just happened in the program. And when I look at it on the program, it looks completely different. And when I export it, it has that effect on it. And I was like, this is like such a great, happy accident. Like, it looks good, it gives the right
Mm.
effect. And it was just so lucky that it worked out that way. Um, and then with the Greed cover, there's a little creepy looking fish monster on the front. And that was actually drawn by an artist friend I have named Hayley Smith. She's a mural artist in Perth. And she read Ashwood and she absolutely loved it. And I was like, oh, I need a monster for, I think we were just hanging out one day and I was complaining about like, oh, I need to do my cover and I need this fish design and I don't know how to draw it. I suck at drawing. I'm gonna have to hire someone. And she was like, oh my God, I'll do it. Let me do it. Let me draw a creepy fish. And I was like, okay, cool. Because she normally, her murals are bright, colorful,
Mm.
beautiful Australiana, like florals and animals and just
Mm.
beautiful colors. And then she drew this creepy monster anglerfish looking thing. And I was just like, this is amazing. So yeah, very fun. But I recommend, if anyone is going down the self-publishing route,
Mm.
you need to be able to upskill and you need to be willing to upskill, because that's how you're going to save money. Self-publishing is so expensive. And being able to do my own covers, I saved probably thousands of dollars. So you need to be prepared to upskill, you need to do the research, and you need to be willing to do it. I think there's a lot of people that will look into self-publishing, they'll see the cost of things and they're like, oh, I don't know. And now with the rise of AI art as well, it's a lot of people are just turning to AI art. And I'm like, please don't do that, because it's harmful. And you could just do it yourself. Like, just upskill, learn how to do it. There's so many tutorials on YouTube for free. You don't need to pay for anything.
Mm.
$70 for a design program, a single payment design program, $70. You can do whatever with that. Maybe buy some other design elements from actual legitimate sources.
Yeah.
Um, and put it together yourself. Like, I think for self-publishing, you really need to go in with the mindset of, I'm going to have to learn things, I'm going to have to teach myself things, and I'm going to have to do it myself. Like, I need to upskill. I think that's probably the most helpful advice I can give to anyone looking to self-publish, is just upskill. Always be prepared to upskill. So it's going to be the only way you're going to save money.
No, it's good that you say it as well, because like I'm talking to a lot of authors and especially indie authors
Mhm.
that are like, well, I always thought that writing a book it's the cheapest thing to do, and then I will become the next John Grisham. And
Mm-hmm.
no, no,
No.
it is actually really expensive
Mm-hmm.
um, to publish a book, and especially yourself. All the editing, draft after draft after draft, and
Yeah.
then like yeah, cover design. Like it isn't the cheapest thing to do to actually hire somebody who can do it for you.
Yeah.
Uh, like I can understand like people who don't have any design qualities.
Mm-hmm.
Like yeah, but yeah, it's definitely like watch YouTube. YouTube
Yeah.
is incredible. So I think that's a really good tip for people
Mm.
who actually want to get into writing or self-publishing.
Yeah.
It's like learn those things along the way,
Yeah.
except for editing.
Yes. Editing definitely should be done by a different person. Definitely. And it should cost more than $150 for a full novel. I think that's a
It's
lot that I see as well. But
yes.
like just to extra break down how easy it can be to design a cover, if I break down the Ashwood book cover,
Hmm.
you've got the background, which is just a wood panel thing that I bought off a design website for, I think it was like $2 for a whole pack of 50 different images. So
Okay.
it's just background, then there's a gradient, then you've got the flower, and then you've got a layer of kind of like a smoke effect that I drew
Mm.
myself in a drawing program of my iPad. Um, and then I think I have like a couple of lighting effects, which is just a filter on my design program, and that's it. That's all that's there. The flower was definitely the hardest thing to do, especially
Hmm.
like, but that was a completely new skill that I was developing. So that was the hardest thing. But even within that program, a lot of the lighting effect on the flower was actually done in the sculpting program. So
Okay.
even that was kind of really quickly done. The greed cover, I think overall, if I was to put it all together, I probably did that in a day or two. So it really
Mm.
didn't take that long to learn it. Obviously, I have kind of the benefit of having a little bit extra knowledge,
Yeah.
but that one is just multiple layers of images put on top of each other and a stamp brush that I bought from a program with a commercial license. So it really is kind of simple when you break it down like that. It looks so hard and it looks like it would be such a big
Mm.
task. But when you break it down, it's not really that hard. It's just playing with the program, again, watching a couple of YouTube tutorials. That's it.
So in
So I
your
think
fonts, like your text, like on
mhm.
your covers, like did you use something special for that, or just like normal letter fonts that you can find in Word, for example?
So I did buy those. So again, anything that you buy for a cover, you have
Hmm.
to buy it with a commercial license.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of times when people aren't doing that as well. You need to make sure with your covers that you're doing everything legally. You're not infringing anyone's copyright on images. Um, Images on Google, images on Pinterest, they are not free to use. If you are using them without a license, you are stealing someone's work. So definitely using where did I get the fonts? I think I got them off a website called Creative Marketplace, where a lot of better graphic designers than me will upload their work on there, and you can purchase their custom made fonts and other images that people have taken of, scenery or
Mm.
old parchment paper that someone's scanned or photographed and stuff like that. So you can go on there and you can purchase it. You just have to make sure you purchase it with the correct license. It has to be the commercial license for you to be able to legally use it on your book cover, because you are making money off it. So you got to make sure you're doing the right thing there. So a lot of stuff I got from Creative Marketplace, especially the fonts that or the font, I think it's the same font on both covers. So the font that I used, I got from Creative Marketplace. And then the effects on it are just on the design program, and you just play with it until you find what you like, and there you go.
Yeah. So try it out.
Mm.
A lot of people using Canva as well. Like, would that be like one of the designer programs, especially for like beginners who really starting authors that have no idea about graphic designs to actually
Mhm.
start up with? Or would you recommend like using different design software or things like that?
So there's always Canva, which is great for beginners. I I don't know why I have a grudge against Canva. I
Uh-oh.
think it's just from trying to use it when it
Mm,
first ever came out, and it was really limited. And I think it came out when I was actually studying graphic design as well. So I was just like, the limitations of this are horrible. I hate it. It's terrible. And I think I've kind of kept that mindset of like, I don't like the limitations. I can do it better myself. I'll just make everything from scratch. So all of my marketing
mm,
material as well, I make from scratch. I don't use Canva. I make it from scratch. And that's not me trying to be kind of pretentious. Oh, I'm a graphic designer. I don't know how to use Canva and I can't get it to work for me and it confuses me and hurts my head. So I just steer away from it. Um, but I would just out of principle stay away from Adobe, Photoshop, InDesign, Illustrator. They are what I would recommend, the creative suite. Adobe is just such a ripoff. It's so overpriced for what it is. I just don't like it. Just on principle with how much it costs and
mm.
issues that I've had with them in trying to cancel subscriptions and all of those nightmares. The software that I use is the Affinity Suite by Serif, who I believe they are now joined with Canva. I'm not sure who bought who, but they're actually kind of one entity now.
Okay.
And I think with the newest release of their design programs, you get a free Canva subscription, I believe, if you purchase the new set with them. But they've got Affinity Photo, Affinity Publisher, and Affinity Design, which are basically your knockoffs of those three Adobe programs I listed. So you've got a Photoshop dupe, you've got a InDesign dupe, and you've
Mm.
got an Illustrator dupe. That's all you need for a book. All of my internal formatting, I did all of that in Publisher. It's so easy. You just make a template, like make your book, make it a template, and then you just use it on your next one, and you use it on your next one. So you do it once, and that's it. The programs are very affordable for what they are. I think they're 70. They usually have sales as well, so definitely check
Yeah.
out when they've got it on sale. But I think they were about $72 when I bought them, so they must have been on sale. Um, and that's for each of them. It's a one-time payment. There's no subscription. Um, and they're just great. Like the features that they have in there is very comparable to the Adobe versions.
Mm,
There's a couple of features that are missing that I wish they had. Like there's no live trace, which if you a graphic design
mm,
inclined or know anything about live trace, oh my god, I wish they had it because live trace is amazing.
mm.
um, but as far as I'm aware, there's no live trace within their programs, but that's really kind of the only thing that's missing. The rest of it, I find that it's just so intuitive compared to the Adobe programs as well. For me, it's mostly the affordability. I think a lot of people are put off it because it doesn't have EPUB export, which is needed
Okay.
for
Yeah.
your ebooks. But you can always use a program to switch the file over. Sometimes it doesn't like it. For my ebooks, I tend to do very, very basic formatting because I was actually informed by a friend that when you have really intricate ebook designs, like with pictures and with chapter breaks and stuff like that,
Yeah.
it doesn't work with read aloud technology that visually impaired people use.
Okay.
So I've gone to, all right, my ebooks are bare minimum. Like I just format them in Word at this point because I want my books to be as accessible as they can be. Um, so when you're making it for your paperback, like
Mm,
I do highly recommend using the publisher. It's so much cheaper. I know a lot of people use Atticus and Vellum.
Yeah.
They're so expensive for what they are, and it stresses me out. Like, I know that they're easier, but you're spending so much money on them. Like, it's what, $300 for Atticus, I think, or for Vellum as well is about $300, and you have to have a Mac. And I'm like, whoa, whoa, that's too much.
Vellum, yeah.
Yeah,
Vellum is
Affinity
only for
Publisher.
Mac, and
Yeah,
like Atticus is pretty okay.
yeah.
And they have sales on as well, and you can use
Mm,
them normal at Word. Um, but yeah,
yeah,
probably
it's
shop around. Like there is
definitely.
a lot what you
Yeah.
can do at
Hmm.
cheaper price.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Affinity Publisher, like that was, again, I think it was like $70 to get that. You can get it on sale every now and then. Um, you make it once, you make it a template, you're set
And
for
that's
life.
it.
And
Yeah.
it's $70 and you don't have to touch it again.
And your
Um,
books have the same format. Like there's
yes,
nothing more
exactly.
annoying
Yep. So you don't have to
than
fight with a
books in a
program trying to get it
series.
to match. It's all, and you can add in your own custom things. You really customize what your paperback's going to look like, which I appreciate. I'm not sure how much limitation there is with Atticus and stuff. But yeah, just having the freedom, again, for me, it's the freedom. I want the freedom, I want the control. So having that freedom to add my own chapter breaks and make them look how I want them to look, and
Yeah.
add my own chapter headings and have them look how I want them to look, and not have to fight with a program to put the chapter heading where I want the chapter heading to go is, I think, is worth the $70 and the time it takes to learn how to use it. And like I said, there's so many YouTube channels
Yeah.
that have tutorials to follow. I just think people need to be willing to learn.
Yes, exactly.
Mm.
Um, so you told earlier that you had a lot of work in progress at the moment lined up. Is there like little project that is like, oh yeah, that will be done very soon?
Unfortunately, probably not. I'm a very slow writer, especially because I'm a mood writer as well. So it's, if anything happens and I'm not in the mood, unfortunately, it's not getting worked on. At the moment, I am working on Ashwood Book 2, or Alabaster and Obsidian is the title. So I've been working on that a lot recently. I think in the last 2 weeks, I've written about 7,000 words on that, which is pretty good for me. I'm usually not that active with my writing. Um, so that's coming along quite well. I'm working on a vampire tragedy, which is it's called Tenebrosa. It's set in northern Italy, so it's very like Italian period piece kind of thing. It's set in the early 1800s, so a lot of research has gone into that one, which is very difficult because Italians are terrible record keepers. So I'm just trying to figure out what
Mm,
currency they had at the time, and it was like, oh well, Napoleon was involved invading, and half of the country was Austria, and half the country was France. It wasn't Italy yet, and like, I'm like, oh
mm.
goodness. So it's like vaguely Italy. I think technically where they are, it would have been France, but we're going to ignore that for now. But yeah, so working on that. I've got the opera singer, metal singer romance on the works. I have an office romance that's in the works. I think between the all of them, Ashwood Book 2 or Alabaster and Obsidian or Tenebrosa will be the first two that get finished, or one of them will be the first one finished. Tenebrosa, I'm already almost 30,000 words into it, so that one's pretty solidly
Mm.
going. And that should, I say it should only be 80,000 words, but I am a chronic overwriter, so it could end up being over 100,000. Um, Ashwood Book 2 is
Mm.
easy going to be pushing 200K at this
Mm.
point, if not more. So we'll see how that goes. But unfortunately, I don't think there'll be anything finished within the next, or finished and released within the next year. But I'm hoping to at least finish one project this year and have it out
Yeah.
to beta readers. But it's
exciting though.
Yeah.
Um, well, Emily, thank you so much. For all you guys, you can buy Emily her book Ashwood and Creed following the link that you can find and in the screen and on our website as well. Thank you so much for being with us and explaining everything so thoroughly, especially like what to do as a writer that wants to self-publish. I think it's really important for writers to know, like, okay, it's not the cheapest hobby,
Mhm.
but there are ways to actually save some money in the process as well.
Mm. Thank you for having me, and sorry if I rambled too much.
Not at all. I actually love, like, especially the tips. A lot of writers are watching, like, okay, where do I go and how to go from it. So thank you again. Um, Guys, I will see you next time with a new author and new exciting stories. Okay, bye.